Woman who excels in her work, she will stand before kings. She will not stand before unknown men. And that's my variation of Proverbs 22, verse 29. Live from digital address GA0993341. Good evening, and God bless you for matriculating into tonight's edition of Springboard, your virtual university. Springboard is a multimedia educational and personal development intervention, the biggest and by far the most consistent of its kind, running since August 2008. We're live on Joy 99.7 FM and on Facebook, streaming digitally on Joy 99.7 FM, Albert Eni Okran and Comfort Okran A. This program is brought to you by Legacy and Joy 99.7 FM and proudly sponsored by EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank, MTN, Ghana's number one university. Woman who excels in her work, she will stand before kings. She will not stand before unknown men. And that's my variation of Proverbs 22, verse 29. Live from digital address GA0993341. Good evening, and God bless you for matriculating into tonight's edition of Springboard, your virtual university. Springboard is a multimedia educational and personal development intervention, the biggest and by far the most consistent of its kind, running since August 2008. We're live on Joy 99.7 FM and on so far, we've had a general overview of the year 2018 and a bit of projection to 2019. We've looked at human capital, marketing, and last week project management and the issues in between. Tonight, we turn our attention to the dynamics of the executive floor. What does it take to get to the executive floor? And by the way, let's talk about public relations. Let's talk about communications and customer insights. My guests tonight understand these themes very well because they live with them and make big decisions on a day-by-day basis. They have three things in common. One, they are very good friends. Two, they are on my short list of Ghana's most influential corporate leaders. And three, they are very powerful people. So, in no particular order, let me welcome Gladys Anwa and Adiki Aitewi. Gladys and Adiki, welcome Springboard.
Thank you.
Thanks for making time to join us on the show tonight. It's just amazing that you were able to make time to join us tonight, and we would like to find out. So, let me start with you, Adiki. You are the Vice President for Sustainability and External Relations. You've been punching it high at Newman for years, and Gladys, you sit comfortably in EXCO, is a customer relations director,
Customer development.
development director
Yeah.
at Unilever, making big decisions on a day-by-day basis. For the benefit of my listeners, what does it take to sit in exco? I like the word exco. Top management. What does it take to sit in exco? Let me start with you, Adiki.
What I'd say is leadership, so your leadership capabilities. And a lot of times we focus on the technical work that we do. But when you're moving into the leadership level, it's the soft skills that matter. So how are you able to bring people along? What leadership skills do you show? So in terms of your customer relations, in terms of being able to manage the team, in terms of being able to plan the work that you do, and basically reflecting the culture of the organization. So
Customer relations, managing people, reflecting the culture. So basically, you will sum all of that up as leadership.
Yeah,
Gladys,
and the ability to even take people along with you.
Wonderful.
It's key.
Wonderful. Gladys, what will be your take? What does it take to get into Exco?
So I will start with a lot of blood, sweat, and tears.
Say that again.
Definitely.
A lot of blood, sweat, and tears.
Wow.
It's not. I think it's like Adiki said. It's not the technical competencies. I think the technical competencies give you awareness, so people are aware that you are able to do the job. But then it's that little bit extra that kind of gets you into Exco. So, I mean, I agree with the leadership component of what you need to do. But I also think it's an ability to, as an ex-boss of mine used to say, see around the corners. Because you can't guide a business forward if you don't have an idea of what could be coming around the next bend. Which I think is in line with the topic we're talking about now.
Absolutely. I was going to say, you almost are prophetically speaking to the topic for tonight. And that's why it's so poignant that we're going to spend time tonight looking around the corner. Because really, without a sense of what to expect in 2019, we could find ourselves in the year and not know our left from our right. Mm-hmm. So let's get down to the details of it, starting with 2018. Adiki, how has it been for you? I know your industry is peculiar, but generally, how has 2018 been?
I think I'll look at it from a number of angles. One has been the increasing demand for jobs. So there's a lot of unemployment, and that is reflecting on business. So if you look at my business, which would be Newmont, for example, you probably may be aware that in probably a couple of weeks ago, we had a demonstration on our Chimai side, and a lot of it was driven by unemployment. We had a similar experience at our for mine, once again, unemployment. So we may say that we take all our unskilled labor from the mine site, and probably have about 47% of our employees coming from there, including contractors. But everybody wants to work with Newmont, and you cannot employ everyone. So it requires, back to the point around disruption, we need to think about doing things differently. What can we do differently to create jobs? Because we cannot employ everybody within the company, but how do we, probably looking at those SDG goals, how do we become kind of a catalyst for alternative livelihoods within our host communities, such that people can look elsewhere for jobs and not look only up to us? So those days of kind of thinking I provide the jobs and I've done my best doesn't cut it anymore. It's beyond that. What can you do beyond what you offer to the larger goal of the social people that you have, creating that opportunity outside your work? So
would that be a microcosm of what a government faces, really? I mean, you provide what you can, but even those you can't provide for have an expectation that you can't ignore. Yes. Will you say what you face in your company is probably a reflection of what goes on the larger scale of things?
It could be, because we keep hearing that we have a lot of graduates. I remember there's the Unemployed Graduates Association. So I think there is that challenge out there. But if we look at and align with the SDG goals, you can't probably go with the Milton Friedman approach and say, well, my role is to create value for my shareholders and do what I can do. It's how do you use what you have to support the broader social good. So where we talk about social investment, so as a business, we all need to think differently the way we do things.
Right. So your big issue in 2018 has been unemployment and increased demand for jobs, especially in your catchment area, if I may call that
That's,
so.
I mean, that is just one of the issues. There are
Right.
others, but I'll
Right.
focus on that.
Let me come to you, Gladys. What would be the main issue for you in 2018? How has 2018 been for you?
I would categorize 2018 as a tale of two halves. I think the first half of the year, as with any change, came with a sense of euphoria and I think some level of expectation. So I think business was tough, but a lot more movement in the cycle than I think in the second half. And of course, everybody knows the kind of challenges that have hit our economy in the last few months that have created some of these tensions. And so when you think about things like disposable income for people to invest in, everyday products, that becomes a challenge. People to take a risk on certain business ventures, that also becomes a challenge. And when you are in fast-moving consumer goods like us, your revenue comes from availability of disposable income. And even though our products are more basic in their nature, when people become very cash-strapped, they make different choices. And of course, the influx of imported goods and cheaper items has also created a bit of tension. So I think the second half has been extremely tough. I think also compounded by the issue that Adiki is talking about. When you have such a high level of youth unemployment, the burden on the little income that sits in the home stretches even further. Because, you hope that you can send your children to school, they then become active members of society, you get a little bit of cash relief, you can then invest in certain things you'd like to. And so it's been quite, choppy to use a phrase that has become commonplace, which is VUCA. I think the one thing we have experienced in Ghana is that it's been extremely volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. You can't say that you know what's going to happen tomorrow. You've just got to deal with it on a daily basis.
Volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Reminds me of Springboard 2017, the keynote address, and these four words featured prominently in the keynote address in Springboard 2017. Let's talk about the business CEOs listening out there. I have quite a number of them listening on Facebook, some of them watching us, and then also listening to us on Joy 99.7 FM. You're talking about a situation where there's a bit of disruption. You start the year with great expectations. It starts well, first half manageable, second half disruptions that you did not anticipate at the time you're drawing a budget for last year or for this year. You have 2 months more for the year to go. You have targets that you signed up to at the beginning of the year. How do you claw back on some of these unforeseen challenges that you mentioned? And Gladys, I'm sure for you the targets are key. They are huge. How do you turn the bend that you talk about? How do you ensure that even before you get to the bend, you're talking about what's after the bend, but before you get to the bend, how do you ensure that you maintain the momentum or you maintain the pace and not fall back?
I think it's a series of actions that you put in place. But I think the most important thing is when you start the year, you probably have, 5-6 objectives that you're thinking of. And what disruptions do is they call each of these objectives into question. And when you get to a situation where, I say to my team, even though you say we got 2 months, I say to my team we got 4 weeks left.
Right.
Because by the middle of December, in a sales system, the world starts to shut down. And so the most thing is to focus on, in my mind, usually 1, maximum 2 key things that you think you can actually go forward and achieve, and just center the whole organization's attention around that. Because you don't have the luxury of 9 months or ample space to have people doing 25 different things. So what we've tended to do is to say, what are the 2 key non-negotiables for us, and how do we make sure that all individuals in the organization are focused on driving those? It won't be it won't be probably making sure that you I don't know, advertise the 16 adverts that you've got, but you want to center it around the things that count and the things that make a difference. And to Adiki's point earlier, there are really two things. You've got a company like ours, you've got shareholders that you have responsibilities to. So you focus on things that drive some of the key metrics in that aspect. But you also want to be sure that you are gearing the business for the new year, because there's a danger of doing too much such that you start to mortgage your next year's business. So you've got to strike a good balance between keeping your shareholders happy and making sure that your business is ready for the next year. And so just focusing on those two elements for me becomes an important thing.
And you want to speak to that as well, and I'll come back to this very interesting points that you raised. You're saying that in spite of the fact that the year is not as well as you'd have liked it to be, there's also a new year that is coming, and there are certain critical actions you need to take. Probably go to your strategy session, draw out the new year, prepare for it, set in place the framework. That still has to happen, even though there have been some disruptions. Adiki, what would you say to somebody who's thinking, listen, how do we claw back on some of the setbacks and ensure that we end the year in good shape before we even talk about the new year? What would you say to somebody who's thinking, how do I get something out of 2018 before the year ends?
Well, I think it's back to Gladys's point. I would say that you're thinking about what can you do different within the space and the time that you have. And I'll come from a PR cons perspective is how, and I'll take it this way, that what relationships are you building with your customers or your consumers? So for me, it will be, we talk a lot about these days of social media, those days that, to grasp, you just put your advert and expect that once the adverts go out, people are going to listen and look at it and run to, it's almost like the hypodermic needle, and run and go and buy. It doesn't work. That more. I mean, if I want to buy, I want to hear what your thoughts about what products that they have. I want to be able to engage with you. I want to see that you care about me. So one key thing would be how you engage with your customers online. For me, that's important. It's a short bit, and you're going to take probably your adverts online, but it's that engagement, how you utilizing influencers, because those influencers may, and I presume that you are one, so you may have about 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 followers. So if you have those followers, you have that connection with them. They trust you and they believe in you. So I need to be able to have that relationship with you and tap into those people that you have to drive the sales, and then that connection that I need to bring people.
Which is what you are doing now.
So that would be something that I would say that for the last, it's something people should think about. The traditional way of advertising probably doesn't cut it much anymore. I don't know how many people read graphic or times. So people are more on Facebook, they are more on Twitter. So how are you gearing up those relationships and that engagement there to drive people towards your product and make your sales?
20 minutes past the hour of 7 o'clock. If you just joined us, this is Springboard, a virtual university. My guests for tonight, Gladys Amwa Adikia Itebi, are helping me to appreciate the year 2018, how it has gone, and then very importantly, how to project towards the year 2019. Our focus areas will zero in now on communication, public relations, and customer insights. And Adiki said the ball rolling in that space by saying that we need to engage with our publics, and very importantly, utilize media that can connect with them in real time on a consistent basis, just so that our message can reach our publics appropriately. Adiki, let me come to you, Gladys. How critical is communication? year, prepare for it, set in place the framework. That still has to happen, even though there have been some disruptions. Adiki, what would you say to somebody who's thinking, listen, how do we claw back on some of the setbacks and ensure that we end the year in good shape before we even talk about the new year? What would you say to somebody who's thinking, how do I get something out of 2018 before the year ends?
Well, I think it's back to Gladys's point. I would say that you're thinking about what can you do different within the space and the time that you have. And I'll come from a PR cons perspective is how, and I'll take it this way, that what relationships are you building with your customers or your consumers? So for me, it will be, we talk a lot about these days of social media, those days that to grasp where you just put your advert and expect that once the adverts go out, people are going to listen and look at it and run to, it's almost like the hypodermic needle and run and go and buy. It doesn't work. That's the more. I mean, if I want to buy, I want to hear what your thoughts about what products that they have. I want to be able to engage with you. I want to see that you care about me. So one key thing would be how you engage with your customers online. For me, that's important. It's a short bit, and you're going to take probably your adverts online, but it's that engagement, how you utilizing influencers, because those influencers may, and I presume that you are one, so you may have about 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 followers. So if you have those followers, you have that connection with them. They trust you and they believe in you. So I need to be able to have that relationship with you and tap into those people that you have to drive the sales, and then that connection that I need to bring people.
Which is what you are doing now.
So that would be something that I would say that for the last, it's something people should think about. The traditional way of advertising probably doesn't cut it much anymore. I don't know how many people read graphic or times. So people are more on Facebook, they are more on Twitter. So how are you gearing up those relationships and that engagement there to drive people towards your product and make your sales?
20 minutes past the hour of 7 o'clock. If you just joined us, this is Springboard, a virtual university. My guests for tonight, Gladys Amwa Adikia Itebi, are helping me to appreciate the year 2018, how it has gone, and then very importantly, how to project towards the year 2019. Our focus areas will zero in now on communication, public relations, and customer insights. And Adiki said the ball rolling in that space by saying that interpretly. Adiki, let me come to you, Gladys. How critical is communication? You suggest that stakeholders appropriately. Adiki, let me come to you, Gladys. How critical is communication? Because when you talk about disruption, you suggest that stakeholders connect with them in real time on a consistent basis, just so that our message can reach our publics appropriately. Adiki, let me come to you, Gladys. How critical is communication? Because when you talk about disruption, you suggest that stakeholders, in dealing with our stakeholders, things sometimes are not happening the way that we want them to happen. So you're talking about your board, you're talking about your employees, talking about consumers, you're talking about community. How critical is communication in the matrix of things at a time like this?
Absolutely critical. And I think sometimes as businesses, we take that for granted, right? And we think that we can craft a one-word statement that moves forward. But in situations where you have disruption, you need to be able to communicate one single-minded message that the full organization galvanizes around. And that's not as simple as sitting down and deciding what you are, what you want to write in a sentence and just say it to people. You have to be able to be clear about what the situation is, what we intend to do, and the support you need from everybody to be able to do it. Because as you can imagine, in a disruptive space, people are anxious. They're unsure about who to trust, who not to trust. They're uncertain about what lies in tomorrow. And so some of the decisions that they make may not bode well for tomorrow, but based on the information they have, they go ahead and they do. So making sure that you are able to speak to your employees, and for someone like me in customer development, to your customers, and that message translates across different types of customers. And I think sometimes we forget that the message doesn't go down the same way to everybody.
Right.
So being able to tailor it to, how in my world, the key distributor would consume the message versus a wholesaler versus one of our ladies in the market who sells on tabletops is very critical. And then making sure that the machine is single-minded at communicating this, I think, is absolutely essential at a time like this.
What will be the key communication to, let's say, the board? What will be the key communication that will go upwards to, let's say, the board?
So I think it's an assessment of where we are, an assessment of what the risks and opportunities are, as well as a view of what it is we think are key actions that we need to take to mitigate some of those risks. And I think as a board, once you're clear on those key frameworks, then it's easier to make the decisions to move forward. And for me, that's absolutely critical. I think sometimes we want to be 100% certain before we put together a risk assessment, potential opportunities, and where we're going. But I think the way the market is right now, you can't be at 100%. You've got to go with what you have today, highlight what the tensions are, highlight what you're looking to do to deal with those tensions, so that as a business, you are as agile as possible.
All right, so another word has emerged. You've talked about VUCA. Now we're talking about agility. So what Gladys seems to be suggesting is that at a time like this, your frequency of engagement must increase. I mean, you must engage a bit more frequently, and don't wait and have a fully rounded 100% aligned report. There must be constant engagement with stakeholders and constant updates for people to feel their pulse points are on the key issues. Adiki, you live, breathe, and sleep public relations. Gladys is suggesting that the more uncertainty there is, or the more disruption there is, the more there's the need for continuous engagement. So probably if you had a monthly time with the community, or a monthly time with stakeholders, or a quarterly meeting, there probably would be a need for a monthly or a weekly or some more consistent engagement than before. What would you say to that?
So it's understanding the various channels or platforms that you have available to you, and people consume information differently. So I tend to kind of work with a PESO model. So you're looking at your paid, you need to advertise. So you advertise traditional, you advertise social. At the same time, you also are thinking about your end media. So how am I proactively putting out stories so that people can read, and people tend to trust, any media more. You are thinking about your social networks, because these days there's so many channels. There's Facebook, there's Twitter, there's Instagram, there's Google. Then you also have to think about your own platform. So you have your website, and at the end of the day, if you're looking at your search engine optimization, your website is really where customer-based organizations may probably be selling online. So you're using all these different platforms to drive people to your website to make purchase. So how you utilize it across, but knowing that they all help amplify the information that you want and drive people ultimately to your website to make the sale that you're looking for. And there are also tools that you can use to be able to tell how people are engaging with you. You can also check reviews to see, because don't forget that when people are reviewing your product and they're also giving negative reviews, these days people prefer to hear from somebody like me. So if I read and you say that, oh, this product is not good, no matter what advert you put out there, this person who is like me, I'm going to listen to. So you have to be consistently being on your channels, understanding what people are saying about your product or about your company, and responding. Where you need to apologize, you apologize. Where you need to say things differently. So it's kind of a box, a Pandora box of things, or a suite of things that you need to do to reach people.
But it's all about continuous engagement.
It is.
It's 27 minutes past the hour of 7 o'clock. If you just joined us, we are having a conversation about 2018 so far, and then projecting into 2019. My guest, Gladys Amwa, Customer Development Director, Unilever Ghana, and Adiki Aitebi, Vice President, Sustainability and External Relations at Newmont Africa. We're trying to get a sense of where we are in the year 2018. Gladys says, listen, we don't have 2 months, we have 4 weeks more to go. Mid-December, everything starts shutting down. Get ready to stop work. Write your name and your index number on the answer sheet. If you haven't done anything by then, there's no hope for you. So this program is brought to you by Legacy and Legacy Enjoy 99.7 FM, proudly sponsored by EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank, MTN, Ghana's #1 network, and Central University, Ghana's premier private university, with support from the graphic business. I want to remind you that on Tuesday you can buy the graphic business and get a full rundown of everything that we have discussed on the show tonight. EcoBank Ghana is the only bank to have won the coveted CIMG Bank of the Year award 5 times, winning the last 3 consecutively for 2014, 15 and 16. This year the bank has been elevated to the prestigious Marketing Hall of Fame, another first by a bank in Ghana. Alongside this award, the bank has also won the much sought after CIMG Marketing Oriented Company in Ghana. EcoBank also wins the 2018 Mobex Africa Innovation Award for Banking Solution of the Year and Fintech Innovation Bank of the Year. This couldn't have been done with you, our valued and cherished customers. Join us as we renew our promise to work continuously at improving service delivery and providing innovative and flexible financial products and services. We encourage you to join EcoBank, the winning bank, today. Simply download the EcoBank mobile app on Google Play Store and the App Store and get connected, or visit any of our branches or express points nationwide and transact with ease. EcoBank, for sure, is the Pan-African Bank. Let me bring you some messages from our sponsors. When I come back, let's break down the year 2019. What is after the curve? So far, we've been getting an idea about 2018 and how to end it. But most importantly, what should we expect in 2019? Gladys says, if you know what is around the bend, you are likely to go into Exco. Let's find out what's next after the bend. Please don't go away.
Central University has new programs for the 2018-2019 academic year. BA in Sociology and Social Work, BSc in Psychology and Planning, MA in Teaching English as a Second Language, Doctor of Pharmacy, PharmD. Save travel time and costs with our online and distance learning programs. Central University offers a safe and serene learning environment, world-class education that is hands-on and engaging, with well-equipped facilities. The 2018-2019 admissions are open. Apply now for new and existing programs. Call 0307-020-540. Visit www.central.edu.gh. Save travel time and costs with our online and distance learning programs. Central University offers a safe and serene learning environment, world-class education that is hands-on and engaging with well-equipped facilities. The 2018-2019 admissions are open. Apply now for new and existing programs. Call 0307-020-540. Visit www.central.edu.gh.
Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you were sure you used only 100 megabytes of your data, and yet your network is telling you a different story? That can be very frustrating. So now MTN tells you exactly what you spend, when you spend it, and what you spend it on. That means on MTN, you know exactly how much you spend on your phone calls, browsing your favorite websites, social media surfing, and text messages. How do you find out? Simple. Dial *545#. And you can stay on top of your daily, weekly, or monthly usage only on MTN, Ghana's #1 network. Just dial *545# to access your statement on MTN everywhere you go. Let me say a big good evening to Alex Osei, watching us live from Maryland on Facebook. Enoch Epinginas, watching us from Achim Odan. Is that one of your catchment areas? The Achim area, Adikida falls into your community. So whatever you say is being listened to from. Simon Kofi G is watching from Kintampo. Derek is watching from Pando in the Volta region. Berimaba Isaac Kwesi Afrani is listening to us in Sunyani. Of course, my friend Samuel Say is also on the beat. Sami, good evening, and good evening to you, Elizabeth Amma. So this is a discussion about 2019. What should we expect in the year 2019? Let me start with you, Gladys. 2019. Look into the crystal ball, or better still, around the bend. What does 2019 hold for us?
You're forcing me to end my keep out. So I think firstly, since I'm a radio virgin, I didn't greet the listeners and viewers, so I apologize.
That's okay. They understand.
I apologize to them up front. I think the one thing we can be certain of in 2019 is that there will continue to be volatility. And that it's no longer business as usual. You know, the days of the strategy and the plan that you put together that you can just sort of shelve out month after month and know what you're going to get, I think are gone. And I think the most important thing is the plan is great to have as a framework. But for 2019, I think the important thing is to put in systems and structures to be able to catch things quickly and put in processes that make you as a business a lot more agile to respond to the market. I think we have two sets of types of businesses. So I think corporate businesses like ours, which are global entities, have a lot more challenges in that than, I suppose, a local business or a startup entrepreneurial business. And I think for 2019, the reality of life is going to be different for both of us. But the one thing that is certain is he who is quickest to respond is the one who is going to win in the marketplace. So volatility, a guarantee, structures and systems to give you a higher level of agility, I think important. But I also think the element of people becomes crucial. Because if you've got a team of people who are used to working a certain way, how you take them on the journey to deal with a fast-changing, fast-moving environment becomes absolutely paramount. Otherwise, the plans will be there, but people won't know how to implement them. For me, what we do with that training, developing, and moving forward of individuals becomes an even more important paradigm. And then when I speak to people, I'm not just talking about the people in the organization, but the people across your value chain, because we not only have employees, we have people that supply us with raw materials, we've got customers who we service, we've got consumers and, or shoppers, whichever one you choose to be part of. Consumers are usually the ones who we communicate to, and shoppers are the ones who make the final purchase.
Right.
Each of them are going to play a crucial role in how 2019 shapes and moves forward. And if you don't have a value chain that's geared for that, then all the plans that you've put in place may not happen. So I think it's probably time that you assess the complete value chain and try and build in systems to give you a lot more scope and space to be able to maneuver throughout the year.
I'm going to come to you, Adiki, very shortly to continue from this point. But just to summarize the point that Gladys has made so far, she predicts continued volatility, and simply because business as usual, she says it is over. There can't be business as usual anymore. If you're a CEO, you're listening, a member of the executive committee or exco of your firm, your bank, your organization, what she's saying is that business as usual, it's no longer the case. The plan is always good to have as a framework, but put in place systems and structures to ensure agility. That means quickly responding to unforeseen changes that will definitely arise along the line. She says redesign your value chain to ensure that agility is inbuilt. And then she says there's also people, or on a broader scale, stakeholders, various people that you interact with, and they've been used to doing things in a particular way, but there must be some re-engineering, because if not, they will not be able to respond to the new ways of doing things. Adiki, let's stay with that issue of people, because you mentioned it earlier that anyone who will make it in Exco must carry people along. Gladys is saying that the people you are carrying or trying to carry along have been used to doing things in a particular way, but it's no longer business as usual. How do you get people to see this new light that you are talking about and this new direction that is not as